The first three-team trade of the 2024 trade deadline has just hit, as the St. Louis Cardinals, Chicago White Sox, and Los Angeles Dodgers have all agreed to swap players around their organizations, as the St. Louis Cardinals acquire one of the best starting pitchers on the market in Erick Fedde, and the Dodgers get infielder Tommy Edman to go over and help solve some of the woes that they've had on their infield, while the White Sox go ahead and get a bunch of prospects to go ahead and bolster a farm system as they go ahead and retool after being the worst team by far in the major leagues in 2024. Although three-team deals are more common in baseball than a lot of other sports, it's still an incredibly difficult thing to do. You have to find ways to satisfy all three parties, and it's hard enough to do in a two-team deal. So a three-team deal is definitely interesting, and with Erick Fedde as one of the most interesting pieces available at the deadline, and Tommy Edman picking up a lot of steam as rumored to be traded, this is a very interesting deal that should have dramatic ramifications for these three franchises going forward. So in this video, we'll dive into this trade that just happened, Erick Fedde heading to the St. Louis Cardinals and Tommy Edman heading to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll touch on both of them and what that means for each franchise, as well as talk about all the prospects the White Sox are getting in return and see exactly what each team made out with some gut reaction trade grades for each side of the deal. Before we begin, it would really mean a lot if you could subscribe to the channel. We just passed 1,000, which is a super big milestone. And thanks to you guys, I'm able to keep doing the thing that I love, which is talking about trades and baseball and the future of our sport. So if you're interested in videos like that, about all the trades this deadline or other really interesting video essays from me or other creators out there, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this Erick Fedde three-team deal that just dropped a couple minutes ago from Ken Rosenthal. Erick Fedde has been one of the feel-good stories of the 2024 season. He entered this year with a negative .2 WAR for his entire career, and so far he has 4.6 WAR in 2024 alone. So he's had a complete career resurgence this year after spending the 2023 seasons in the KBO League in Korea. He has completely reformed his pitching ability, and after the White Sox signed him for a 2-year deal to see what he had to prove, he has come out and absolutely dominated, earning himself a trade to a contender, a team that's looking to go and win a World Series in 2024 and 2025, while also allowing the White Sox to get a nice prospect haul in return and go ahead and compete for the future whenever that ends up being. Most likely in a couple years, as the White Sox are still a little bit away from fielding a truly competitive team. Fedde had really struggled in 6 years in Washington from 2017 to 2022 before making the transition over to Korea. His lowest ERA in a season was in 2020, 4.29 in only 11 games of very small sample size. And during that time, he split between the rotation and bullpen, specifically in 2019 and 2020, before making the jump to the rotation full-time in 2021, where he still put up some pretty lousy numbers, a 5.47 ERA in 2021 and a 5.81 ERA in 2022, not great numbers, and his peripheral stats like FIP or fielding independent pitching, which measures a pitcher's ability without unlucky things like fielding errors or stuff like that, shows that his numbers are representative of how good of a pitcher he actually was. In 2023, he went over to Korea and completely reformed his pitching ability and his pitch mix, and has really turned into a dominant pitcher so far in 2024. The biggest change has been Fedde's manipulation of his arsenal. In 2022, he relied heavily on a sinker that averaged about 93 miles an hour, and he used 40% of the time, while also using his curveball and cutter about 30% of the time, and not relying on his changeup at all, only using it 3% of the time. And his StatCast page is pretty bleak. Savant's page is full of circles that are dark blue, which shows that he wasn't good at almost anything except having good extension off the mound, which isn't enough to really be an effective starting pitcher. However, his pitch mix has completely changed since learning a lot over in Korea. He now throws his cutter and sinker about the same 30% of the time, and also ditched the curveball for a sweeper, which he throws 20% of the time, and has drastically increased his changeup usage from 3% in 2022 to 19% in 2024. So he's really gone and completely reshaped himself as a pitcher, and it has turned into a very, very good year for Erick Fedde, and has really come at a complete career resurgence for him as he goes and is now one of the most dominant pitchers of 2024. This is translated very well to success on the mound. He's 7-4 with a 3.11 ERA, incredibly impressive, and his peripherals have been a lot better as well. 3.76 FIP, which is very good. His lowest walks and hits per innings pitched by over 0.2. He's done a phenomenal job of limiting damage in 2024, and it's really helped him become a much better pitcher because of it. He also has a nearly career-high strikeout rate this year at 21.5%. He has a career-low home run rate at 2.8%. He's done a very good job of limiting damage so far, and it's really come off to pay dividends. The biggest improvement, however, has been in limiting his walk rate. His previous career high was 8.1%, and this year it's down to 6.8%. So he's got even better control of his arsenal than he has in years before. That's made him a very good pitcher heading into 2024. And now for 2025, as he's still under contract for the Cardinals, he should be another reliable arm in their rotation. The Cardinals have been collecting pitchers over the age of 30, mostly over the age of 35, really. And now with the addition of Erick Fedde, who is over 30, which fits right in with the Cardinals, you can now knock someone like Andre Pallante out of the starting rotation and leave it Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and Erick Fedde as a nice, very veteran core of pitchers who could do some damage with a lot of experience in the postseason should they end up getting there in 2024 or in 2025. The other player that the Cardinals are acquiring in this deal is collecting jerseys like Infinity Stones, his fifth time being traded, Tommy Pham, who really wasn't expected to be a big contributor by anyone's standards heading into 2024. He actually didn't even sign a major league contract with the team. He signed a minor league deal with the White Sox before absolutely tearing it up in AAA to start the year, causing them to need to call him up because he was doing so well. And now they've turned him into a valuable trade piece heading into the 2024 deadline. And the Cardinals wanted him so bad that he's now going to man the outfield for them going forward in 2024. He has had some defensive issues so far this year, but he has been above average offensively, even if it's just slightly. Across 70 games so far in 2024, he has a 266, 330, 380 slash line, leading to a 102 OPS plus, meaning it's 2% better than league average, which has been slightly below where he's been his entire career. He's had some up and down years, but generally he's about 10% better than average. So this is a little bit of a down year, but entering age 36, that was somewhat to be expected. And the fact that the White Sox even got anything out of a minor leagues free agent signing and turned that into productive value from trading away players is definitely a big get here for them. Turning nothing into something is a positive, and Pham has some interesting value. He's played for 11 years, he is a respected veteran, and the Cardinals have seemed to be going for a lot of older players, a lot of veterans who can provide value to some of their younger players, which granted they don't have a ton on their major league roster right now, but they are definitely going for an older, more experienced team, and we'll see how that plays out as they go ahead towards a spot in the postseason, as right now they are currently 6 games back of the Brewers for the lead in the National League. The Dodgers end up getting 2 players back in this deal. The first one we're talking about is Tommy Edman, an infielder who has also played in the outfield a little bit, who can fill a nice super utility role for the Dodgers, play infield if they need, play outfield if they need, and be a nice piece to fit at the bottom of the lineup, which has really been their weak spot outside of their big 4 hitters. He had right wrist surgery in October of 2023, and although he was expected to return sometime in early August, he has had his rehab since in the minor leagues interrupted with lingering pain in that sprained ankle that he also suffered, and it's just made things complicated, and there's not a real timetable as to when we're expecting Edman to return, but given that he was just traded, the Dodgers expect him to make a return most likely sooner rather than later, so he can make an impact on this team. In terms of his profile, Edman is much more known as a defender. He won a Gold Glove award in 2021 with the Cardinals, as well as leading the league in at-bats with 641. So he has some potential. He was a top-of-the-lineup hitter for the Cardinals for a while. And although he has had some above-average offensive seasons, his rookie year in 2019, he had a 122 OPS plus, 2022 a 107 OPS plus. Career-wise, he's hovered around league average across his 5-year career from 2019 to 2023. He had a 99 OPS plus, which is only 1% worse than the league average across that 5-year time span in terms of OPS. So he's about a league average hitter that can provide above average defense, which doesn't really solve the offensive struggles that the Dodgers have had at the bottom of their lineup, but does provide another interesting piece that they can go and insert into their lineups to try and get things going. And someone who has some experience providing valuable defense is never a bad thing to add to your roster. The other player the Dodgers are acquiring is former top prospect and reliever Michael Kopech, who was one of the big pieces in the return that the Red Sox gave up to the White Sox in the Chris Sale deal. Kopech was a very hyped prospect who a lot of people thought was going to be a dominant starter for the major league level for a very long time, but unfortunately for him, things hadn't really panned out. He made his major league debut in 2018, only pitched in 4 games, started them all with a 1-1 record with a 5.02 ERA before missing 2019 to injury and opting out of the 2020 season due to COVID. In his 4 years since, he's put up okay numbers. In 2021, he was used mostly as a reliever, didn't do a great job, a 3.5 ERA, but he had some really nice peripherals that went with that before reverting back to a starter full-time in 2022 and 2023. Also putting up some pretty lame numbers. In 2023, he led the league in walks with 91 with a 6.46 FIP, that led to a 3.43 ERA, just not very good, before moving to the bullpen full-time so far in 2024. He has pitched in what you would call quote-unquote high leverage situations for the White Sox, not that they have many. He has 9 saves on the season and has finished 26 games for them in 43 and 2/3 innings pitched. He has struck out 59 batters and walked 24, so he is walking a lot, but he's also striking out a ton as well. So it is a good sign that he has the stuff, and the Dodgers are known to be able to really unlock the most out of their pitchers and players in general. So for a former top prospect, this is definitely a nice place to land if you're going to try and win a championship with a team. Kopech has a nice 3-pitch mix. His fastball averages 99, it constantly touches over 100, and he has a slider and a cutter he uses about 10% of the time each. They hover around 90 as well, so a bunch of solid pitches that he can use, and the Dodgers could really go ahead and tap into. Maybe they convert that slider into a sweeper. They were one of the originators of really pushing that pitch. I wouldn't be shocked to see him adopt something different and see exactly where things go. He's your prototypical high strikeout rate, 92nd percentile, 30.9%, but also high walk rate, 12.6%, 7th percentile in all of Major League Baseball, that a lot of high leverage relievers are. But if any organization can unlock something out of him, I would be happy to put my money on the Dodgers to be able to do that. There are also some players heading to the White Sox in this deal. One major leaguer involved is Miguel Vargas, who is a former top prospect for the Dodgers that hasn't really panned out, but at only 24 years old, still a lot of time for him to grow, develop, and potentially turn into a very good player who can meet his potential as a nice 10-year, 12-year starter that a lot of people projected him to be when he was a prospect in the Dodgers organization. The Cuban was projected to be a high batting average, high power kind of hitter, but has really struggled, especially in his first 2 full years of 2022 and 2023. 2022, he played in 18 games after getting his first cup of coffee in the major leagues. A 170 batting average, 200 on base percentage, led to a 27 OPS plus, meaning he was 73% worse than league average in terms of OPS. 2023 slightly better, playing did half the games, 81 to be exact, still below the Mendoza line with a 195 batting average, but he got his OPS up by over 100 points to 305, leading to an 82 OPS plus, and in 2024 across 30 games so far, he's put up much better numbers, playing exclusively left field. Right now, slashing 239, 313, 423 for a 108 OPS plus, meaning he's 8% better than league average, while providing some shaky defense in left field, but nothing to be ashamed about. He isn't known to be a huge defender. That wasn't really his value coming out, but he does have plus arm strength. He's 87th percentile in arm strength right now, according to StatCast, and he was known for having a good arm, just a lack of range, which is why he's currently playing left field instead of playing a position like second base or third base. One of the 2 prospects, both from the Dodgers organization, heading back to the Chicago White Sox is Jeral Perez, who played in the Futures game for the Dodgers in 2024 in Texas, and has been a very interesting name throughout the 2024 season. He's currently 19, already playing in High A after signing with the Dodgers in the international signing class in 2022, and seems to be a solid all-around player. He only signed for $397,000, which is obviously a lot of money, but for the international signing class isn't top-end money, it's more modest. He's someone who really doesn't have a tool that you look at and say, wow, you can be really good, but he is someone who you look at and say, you have at least average or above average at every aspect of the game. You're a solid player. He's someone who could provide value for a team, be a nice bottom of the order kind of guy who can play every day, play multiple positions potentially, maybe third, maybe second, although there is a lot of talk that he'll probably end up at the Keystone, second base long term. That's where he's played the majority of his games in 2024, but there is a potential that he could grow and mature. He's only 19 and play third base, build up his arm strength a little more. We'll see exactly where he ends up. He doesn't have a true, home as a middle of the order, top of the order kind of guy, but he could be someone who provides some good value for a team going forward and definitely has potential. At only 19, development can go a long way and he can be a very good player potentially. He started the year ranked number 17 on MLB Pipeline, and with Baseball America's new updated rankings, he's ranked 18th in the Dodgers organization, so about a top 20 prospect in the system, and that hasn't changed as the year has gone on. The other player involved in this deal, Albertus, was also about that same spot on prospects list, number 23 overall, heading into the 2024 season by MLB Pipeline, currently ranked 16th by Baseball America in their recently updated rankings, so a little bit higher ranking there. And he has some interesting potential. He was also signed in that 2022 international signing class out of Aruba for another very small bonus, only $75,000, but did very well in the Dominican Summer League, continued that in stateside ball, and in 2024 has now gone up and made it to High A at just 19 years old, a very impressive accomplishment, has done a decent job there so far, especially for only being 19, A 646 OPS isn't great, but for someone that young for the class, it's definitely optimistic. I think the biggest note here is that he hasn't struck out a ton. In 70 at-bats, only 15 strikeouts. That's definitely something that's feasible going forward. A 22-23% strikeout rate at this level at only 19 is a very promising sign that he has the potential to be a major leaguer at the level, going up further as he goes. And right now, that's really his best tool. He has an above average hit tool, he has decent eye, and he has decent arm strength as well, which could make him fit in as a shortstop long term. Now that we've spent some time talking about all the players in this deal, let's figure out trade grades for each team, which team made out the best, which team could have done a little bit better, and see exactly where each team falls going forward into the future. I think this is a very easy B+ for me when I'm grading the Dodgers. I think they have a very interesting result here. 3-team trades are always difficult, they're complicated, but I feel like based on what they gave up, they got a decent amount in return. We'll start with Jeral Perez. He was someone who back in April and May, there was a lot of helium around him in the prospect world. People were really excited about him. The fact he's already in high A at age 19 is also very exciting. The fact he started there is even more exciting. That is something you do not see every day. A 19-year-old starting their year in high A. That is very rare. You do not see that very often. It just goes to show you how much the Dodgers believe in him and how advanced he is for his age. I think that's a big knock. He's definitely the best prospect traded in this deal. Granted, there's only 2, but he's someone who I think could very easily be a high riser and someone that if he unlocks something in the White Sox organization, which is a big if, could really be a potential top 100 prospect come 2025 or 2026. Albertus is also 19 in high A, and we'll see how he develops there. He's someone I have a little bit less value than Jeral Perez overall, but he still has some interesting potential. I think he's someone who probably has a lower floor and lower ceiling, but could still be an all-around better player. He's a little bit safer, I think, than someone like Jeral Perez, just because he has a little bit more baseline tools, while Perez is really just kind of showing out with real physical dominant strength right now. We'll see how that develops. 19 is still very young, a lot of time before they can even reach the major leagues. This isn't a Juan Soto situation or a Bryce Harper situation. This is a lot of time to grow and develop. Albertus doesn't even have a photo on MLB Pipeline yet. That's how young and in development these guys are. So there's definitely some time left, which if the Dodgers are going to trade anyone, it might as well be people who are a long way away when you're trying to contend right now. And then the pieces they actually did get in return, I think, are solid. Michael Kopech, I am scared of him going to the Dodgers. I think he could really turn things on and go in a completely very interesting way. I think he has the potential to be a dominant back-end closer if he can figure out some of his control issues. And right now, if any team can do it, I think the Dodgers and the Guardians may be the 2 teams I have the most trust in, maybe the Astros too, to take a pitcher and really convert them into someone who can be a dominant closer. The Dodgers will find a way to make an adjustment to his pitch mix and unlock a lot out of him, and I think that's something very exciting. And Edman will go ahead, come back from injury most likely soon, and help fill a need where they desperately need it. They need someone else who can provide some valuable at-bats, could potentially turn it on offensively, and although Edman's not a huge offensive threat, the Dodgers have liked him for a while, and I think he fits what they need to do decently well. I don't love exactly how this trade ended up panning out for them. I think Perez is a player that the Dodgers would have liked to keep, but for what they got back in return, I think it's solid. For the Cardinals, I'll give this a C+. This is an intriguing trade. They definitely needed a starting pitcher, and Fedde has some longevity. He's going to be under contract for 2025 as well. So you have another piece for if you don't make the playoffs this year, you don't have to worry about potentially missing it this year and then saying, well, we went all in and didn't get exactly what we wanted. So I think this is a safe play. I think it's a good idea that they went ahead and, didn't just look at 2024, but I also wonder why they just want to keep getting pitchers that are kind of older. And granted, 30 is not old, 31 is not old, but I just don't see the fit. I think there are some better options they could have went for on the trade market or potentially looked at free agency this summer. They're only a game back of the wild card, so they definitely have potential. But if you ask me to place bets on who I think is going to make the playoffs, I don't have the Cardinals as one of those teams that do. So it's just not perfect for me. Edman, yeah, they are looking for ways to play players like Jordan Walker, one of the game's top prospects, who has struggled a little bit, and find ways to include him in the lineup and play every day at the major league level. So I get that, but I just don't look at this trade and say, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And Tommy Pham's going to be a free agent after this year, and I just don't know if I love exactly where this has ended up for them. I don't think there's a huge need for them to go ahead and acquire another outfielder. I think he's going to be a 4th outfielder type, and that's just not a big impact that you need if you're trying to push for a playoff spot. Solidify yours? Sure, but push for one? I don't know if this is the answer for them. For the White Sox, I'm going to give this a D. It's a very sad trade for them, in my opinion. Obviously, there's not a ton of control left with Tommy Pham. He's in his last year. He's had an up and down year, negative WAR on Baseball Reference, so take that as you will. But for Erick Fedde, who has had a great year and still another year of control, I really expect them to get more. Miguel Vargas was a former top prospect, and he is only 24. But for that to be the real headliner of this trade is a little bit concerning for me. And Jeral Perez is very good, but he's also very young. Same with Albertus. I would rather someone like the White Sox, who I don't trust to really develop young players, go for players who are maybe a little bit older and have shown that they have some solid chops to them, that they're good players, and you know that you don't need to develop them a ton. They don't need to continue to grow into their body. These guys can't even legally drink next year in the United States. There's still a lot of growth and development that needs to happen at that level, and I just don't trust the White Sox to do it. I think it's a somewhat underwhelming deal, especially when you add in Michael Kopech into that mix as well. I just think they could have gotten a lot better, and I'm not really happy with the prospect package that they ended up getting in return. Well, this was a long video, super complicated trade. Hopefully you enjoyed all of this analysis. There's going to be 2 videos on the screen. If you're interested, hit those. Hopefully they're both trade analysis videos for other trades this deadline. And please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's the easiest way to help out me grow and get other really great baseball content from me and other creators out there as well. Without further ado, I will see you in the very next video.